Hi everyone, I'm going to do a quick phone sketch here, phone stand sketch, and I'm going to try to create this one quickly here. It's not going to be exact. I'm going to go quickly with an emphasis on the general process and little details we can work on individually. But I'm just going to show you the general process, and the general process is going to be to like basically draw this outline here and then extrude it. I just measured the width of my phone. It's about 3 inches out. So I'm going to extrude it 3.5 inches across. And let's just see how that goes. Now, what's going to help me is I just took, literally, it was well under 1 minute to draw this. And are these measurements? No, they're estimates. I held my phone up and I looked at, approximately how tall that would be. And that cut there is something around the same as that height there. Looks like it might be a tiny bit wider, but I'm not going to worry about that. This, I want mine to go up a little bit higher because my experience with my current blue one is that it's a little bit unstable when the phone is in this vertical mode. So I'm going to make this go a little higher on my phone to add stability and come back down. So that's why I went with 3 inches here. This is more like 2 probably. But I'm going to go with a full 3 here, come back down. I'm basically going to use my line tool to draw this all out, just like that. I'm going to close it out. I'm going to extrude it. I'm going to show you a new command called the fillet command. And to round some of those corners and see how these are more rounded. Mine are going to be, when I first draw them, they're going to be sharper. But like I said, let's get going and keep an emphasis here on being quick so the video doesn't get too long. I'm going to show you how to make a cut in it. Say you wanted a cut right there to access, I don't know, a button or a charger or something like that. I'll show you how to make a cut in case your design, in case a cut would come in handy with your design. And I'll show you also how to engrave it, how to put a little engraving on it in case it's a present for somebody or if you just want your own initials on it. So let me pull these off to my second screen here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to create and I'm going to choose a new document. I'm going to call it something appropriate like phone stand. I hit OK. And when I look at this thing here, I feel like that's probably the right side. That's the front. So I'm going to draw on the right plane. I'm going to draw on the right plane, and so to draw on the right plane, I'm going to choose it. I'm going to hit the word sketch up here. I'm going to look right at the right plane, and I'm going to just go ahead and grab my line tool, and I'm just going to draw something nearly vertical here, but not quite. It's a little bit angled out, and I said that was going to be about 3/4 of an inch. So I'm going to just change that to 0.75, hit enter. I'm going to go across, make sure it's horizontal. I think I only want it to be perhaps 1/8 of an inch thick, which is 0.125 or 1/8. I think it'll probably change it to the decimal for me. Yeah, it did. Right. I'm going to go down here, and I'm going to make this one. Well, I don't want to take it right to the ground. Then the bottom, the base will have 0 thickness, right? So I want to come down parallel to this one. I can't tell if that's quite parallel. I think it is. Right, that's parallel, but I don't want it to. I want it to be a very specific measurement. I want it to be 0.75 inches, but minus 1/8. Minus parentheses 1/8. Close them out, and let's see if that worked. Yep. So now I know this is about 1/8 of an inch thick here. It's the same length as this one, but minus 1/8. I'm going to go over what I say. I think I said 3/4 of an inch here too. Just making sure it's horizontal. I've got my horizontal indicator that showed up down there. Right about there it is. So I think this is 0.75. Hit enter. Then it went up at some angle. It was not a 45-degree angle. It was definitely a steeper angle. Exactly what it is, I don't know. I'm going to eyeball it. Maybe something about like that angle is about appropriate. And I remember I estimated I wanted this to be about 3 inches. Then it comes down to the ground over here. You'll see it light up when it gets to this. You'll see that dotted yellow line right next to my cursor to the left of it. That means you're on the same level. See, it disappears when it's not. Right now it's level with the upper sketch element, but I want it even with the base of the thing right there. I just kind of, again, I'm just eyeballing my angles here. I'm going to go this way for 1/8 of an inch, get it horizontal. I'm going to go 1/8 here. I'm going to go bring it up, and I'm going to bring it right about, I don't know, about there. Back down to here and over. And I'm just going to close that out because I think that's probably about right. This base is the same level as that base leg. And that looks a little thick to me, but you know what? That's okay. I'm not going to worry too much about it. I get in here, I choose it so only it turns yellow. I extrude it. About 3 inches was my estimate. And I take a look and see what we have. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it seems like it'll work. We'll find out when I print it. But let's say you wanted a cut in the thing, either to save material. If you're a manufacturer, you might want to save some material by making some cuts where it's not going to weaken the thing. Or you might want to put a cut, say, for a cable. Now this one, I don't know about your phone, but my phone, the charger would be underneath this, and it's going to be sitting on a desk. So I don't know how, this design doesn't really lend itself too well to a charger coming from underneath it. Because look how it sits on the desk. Right, so to get a charger underneath there, it would be sitting on top of its own cable, and that would tilt it back a little bit. I don't know. But let's say your design would be good with a charger. I'll show you how to do it anyway. Right, so let's look right at the front plane. In fact, better yet, let's choose this surface, which is not on the front plane, right? It's tilted back, right? So let's choose that surface and hit the letter N. That gives us a look right at that surface. And I would just sketch on that surface that I just chose. And I could choose this tool, and I could make my cut here, I don't know, maybe 1.5 inches or something like that. 1.5 by 1. And it looks like I almost centered it by eyeball. But if this is, what is this, 3 wide, and that's 1.5, so 3 minus 1.5 is obviously 1.5. So I want 1.5. I got 1.5 inches total of material extra. So if I had 0.75 on each side, then it would be centered. Right. So if I make this dimension here 0.75, see really close. Look at that, 0.75. Then it's centered. It's barely going to move because I did it pretty well by eyeball. And then, where do you want it? I don't know. Maybe you want it right down there. You could go like that to there. If you want it right, there, you could choose that and just turn that to a 0. It'll bring it right down to the bottom. And then you could say I accept. You could choose it, and you could do a removal extrusion. And sometimes they go back too far and they cut through material. Like if the back of this was a little bit closer, it would have been cut by that extrusion. And you can make that extrusion lesser or greater by just grabbing this and dragging it. You can also just change the number here. Right? So I'm going to leave it at 1/4 inch. It's only an eighth inch of material. So there's a cut. Again, for this design, I don't think that cut would be very useful, but I'm just going to leave it there. And then on the back, I'm going to look right at the back. I'm going to hit the letter. I'm going to choose it. I'm going to hit the letter N, and it tilts it so the back is looking right at me. And I'm going to sketch on the back. I'm going to choose my text tool, and I'm going to write, I don't know, my initials, WBW. Maybe something more creative or whatever, but I'm just going to do this to show you how to do it. I'm going to bold it. You have a limited amount of fonts here, and the reason there's a limited amount of fonts is because when you 3D print, it's hard to do complex fonts, and so they've got these pretty simple fonts here, right? That's what it would look like with Roboto Slab, and I'm not even familiar with these fonts, but they're all simple, right? They're all pretty simple. I'm not really familiar with them. What's this one here? Japanese. I don't really see how that changed much. They're all really similar to each other. I'm having trouble even seeing the difference. Anyway, I'm going to go with that one there for no good reason other than there it is. Boom, check, and it shows up. If it's too big or not centered, well, you can take care of that, right? You can take care of that. And the way to take care of that is, well, this was, again, so let's use your dimension tool is the way to take care of it. So let's say I don't want it that big, although I very well might, but I'm going to just say, gosh, that one's 2.4. Well, I'm going to make it 2.5 because maybe I do want it that big. Whatever size you want it, you can just enter it there. With your dimension tool from one line to the other, you just hit go, and there, it just made it that size. Now that's easy to deal with because again, this is 3 inches across, and if this is 2.5 inches, well then I've got a ½ inch total of material this side plus that side extra. So that means a 1/4 inch from here to here would center it. That did not take. Let me try that again. Right, dimension tool still on, and a 1/4 inch, 0.25. Now it's centered that way, and you can do the same thing up and down. It looks pretty good. But let's keep going here. So I say, okay, boom, done. Well, that's, again, what that is that's a sketch. I guess what you want to do. If you want that to be an engraving or something, you choose it, and you extrude it. Again, it defaults to an additional, adding material of 1 inch, but obviously that's not what I want. I don't want my initials sticking way out like that. It would be a really tough print job and a tough cleanup to make it look good, and it just looks awkward. My material is somewhere in the range of an eighth of an inch thick. I'm going to do a removal, and it's going pretty far. Right? It was cutting into the other side. See what I mean? Like it would cut right through the other side if I put it there, and that's not okay. Right? But we don't want it out there, so we'll bring it back in. The extrusion now will go to there, which is affecting only this face. But I don't think I want to go right through. I just want like an engraving. And so if the material is an eighth of an inch thick, well, gosh, I don't know. Why don't I just make this a tenth, or maybe just a little bit more than a tenth, 12/100ths of an inch. Let's see what that looks like if it's coming through the back. I think that's coming through the back. Well, let's take a look. We can change it in a minute. It's still going through. That must be thinner than I thought. Back to my extrusion 3. I'm going to right click and edit and drop it down to a tenth of an inch. Okay, and there it comes. Now it's not coming through the back anymore, but it's in the front. So I just did an engraving. If you want to say happy birthday or anything like that, you can put your engraving right there or wherever you want, right, wherever you want. And let me, over here, I can just go to my isometric view, and that's pretty much ready to print. So if I want to print, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to go to my Part Studio. I'm going to right click on it. I'm going to export. Now these settings are very important. You name it so that I can tell whose it is. So put your last name there, underscore phone stand or some such. So so that when I get your file, I don't mix it up with somebody else's. The format has to be STL. I forget what the default was when I first did this, but STL is what you want to choose. Make sure you're in binary, not text. Make sure your units are in millimeters. I think you're probably going to default to inches or centimeters or something, but do millimeters for sure. That's what our printer prints in, our millimeters. Resolution, medium, options download. Okay, boom. Then it's going to download it to your downloads folder. That's the file that you share with me. You go to your downloads folder, you take that file, I didn't mean to click on it. You take that file, now my slicing software is open. I'll do this part, but the file that I just showed you is what you now export. This is my slicing software. That's my print bed. And I'm not going to try to print it like that because all this is printing over air. That use a lot of supports. It's going to be hard to do. I'm going to choose this thing and rotate it. Probably print it on its side like that, right? And then I'd say, okay, boom. I'm going to make sure it's centered. Probably is centered and on platform. Oh, it wasn't on the platform. Good thing I did that. It wasn't on the platform. And then I've got a couple of extruders. I'm going to use the left one because that's the filament that I want to use, and close that down. I'm going to auto-generate supports. You can probably imagine that when the printer is going to print from the base up, and when it gets to right here, it would be printing over thin air, and the plastic would just fall out of the extruder and fall down and make a mess, right? So you can create some auto supports, and it puts supports in there that are really easy to break out, right? It's also going to support that so that when it's printing over air, it doesn't drip, right? And so those are the supports, and then I pretty much I go back and I hit print, and it tells me supports are enabled, raft is enabled. The raft you'll see in a minute shows up down here. That's so that it sticks to the deck well. More surface area stuck to the deck, the printing deck. And it says here it's going to take 4 hours to print and 14 meters at about 5 cents per meter. So we're well under $1, right? So what's that at? 70 cents or some such. This is going to cost the school system 70 cents to print, and yours will be somewhere around the same size and somewhere around the same amount of material. So do plan on it taking a bit to print when you get me the files, and what I then do is I export the G code and save it to my desktop, and then I'll bring it over manually to the printer, and I'll get the printer buzzing, and we'll have a new phone stand. All right, that's that. Have fun, be creative, and call me over if you need some help, and we'll talk soon. Right, Roger Dodger, over and out.